Aloha, my name is Chef Kealoha Domingo, and I'm here to talk about some locally grown Hawaii staple crops. I'm going to start off with the Charo or kalo, breadfruit or ulu, the sweet potato or uala, and pala'ai, which is a pumpkin that grows really well here in Hawaii. Charo is very significant to the Hawaiian people. Of course, it was our primary staple crop and very prevalent in Hawaii, all across of the islands. This is the top of the corm, and it grows upright and it has long leaves. Every part of the Charo is edible except for the skin, and we typically will cut off the top of this corm and it'll be replanted or discarded. Now it's really important that we talk about the cooking of this Charo because it contains a property called calcium oxalate, and it needs to be cooked thoroughly, otherwise it'll give you a itch in your mouth. Depending on the variety, it may take anywhere between an hour to 3 hours for cooking, but the only way to really test it is to try it. So here I'm just gonna show you a little bit about processing it from a raw state and cleaning it from the raw state. The first thing I would do in this case is I would remove this tip, which we call the huli. This part here, it can actually be replanted. It'll give you 4 or 5 more new plants. From this point, you can go ahead and peel it like you would a potato, or if you're gonna cook it whole and peel it afterwards, which I prefer, I will cut it into smaller chunks. Like so. Careful, it's a little wobbly. And I'm just gonna set it in here. Put it in the steamer, and I'll let that steam for 2 to 3 hours, depending on the variety, depending on the vessel you're cooking it in. But you want to do a little testing of it to be sure that the calcium oxalate is done, and you can check for that tingle on your tongue. Okay, now that we've let our Charo steam for a moment, I'm going to go ahead and show you how much easier it is to clean after it has been cooked. As you can see, skin peels off very nicely. Less waste. Once you clean it for a first pass, you can go ahead and run it under some cool water, and from there you can cut it into your cube portions. Okay, we're going to be processing some ulu or breadfruit. This is a raw product, and this is a product that I steamed previously. I recommend steaming it first. The ulu will typically have a compound in there that's like a latex, and it'll get your knife all gummy and sappy. If you need to cut this thing raw to break it down to fit in your steamer or to fit in your vessel, I recommend using a little bit of neutral oil. I'm gonna do that just real quickly to show you guys the inside, and I just kind of wipe it with a paper towel and some oil. And we're going to cut this thing right in half. You can see here that there's a core. I leave the skin intact. The core is the part that you discard when you clean it. Here I'm going to process this pre-steamed ulu. I steamed it for about half an hour. Mainly you want to make sure it gets to a softer stage. You can take a skewer or a chopstick and poke it in there like a potato. You're going to feel the corm. That's generally when I know that it's fully cooked. I'm going to go ahead and just cut it right in half. Again, you'll see this beautiful core, which is what we remove, and this seed can just be popped out. And what I like to do is I like to flip it on the flat side, and if you're going to be removing the skin, just simply shave it like this. Try to reduce the waste and take off as little of the flesh as possible. Just remove the skin. If you have an imperfection like this, you can just simply carve it out. I do remove the stem here. This is really great compost for your garden. I like to cut it in a quarter, getting access to this core again, and I just run my knife along the core flip it over, run it along the core, pop it out. This also goes into the compost. From this stage, you can cut it into whatever shape or form you want it to be. You can cut it into wedges, you can cut it into cubes. I do prefer to pre-steam any of the staple foods because it does allow for a cleaner product, and it also will retain a bit more of the natural moisture. So if I was gonna put it into a roast, I would steam it. If I was gonna put it into a stew, I would steam it. It reduces cooking time and it ends up with a denser and a creamier product. This pumpkin variety does really well in Hawaii, and we're considering one of our staple foods. Here I have a raw product. Here I have a product that I steamed for about 10 minutes. And what that does is it allows the skin to come off a lot easier. Of course, you can leave the skin on. Definitely recommend it. It has a lot of dietary fiber. Nothing wrong with it, just wash it off well. If you do need to skin it, a good tip is to steam it for a few minutes so that the skin becomes soft, and you'll see how it peels off very easily after that. I'm gonna cut it in half. We have all the seeds that can be removed with this spoon. And again, keeping the flat side down, making sure that your product doesn't run away from you. Simply remove the skin. Beautiful yellow color. It's a little warm, so be careful. Wipe the skin off in case you want to put it into a soup or a puree or a stew. Of course, you can easily remove the seeds with a spoon. Just peel all this fiber out. Remove all of the yellow stringy fiber. You can go ahead and cut it up any way, shape, or form you prefer, depending on your application. You're gonna roast it, you're gonna puree it, add it to a soup, stew. I'm gonna go ahead and cut into this pumpkin. This one is uncooked. It is, in my opinion, a little bit more difficult to process in this means, and it can be a bit on the dangerous side, so you want to be extra careful. Got this tough stem here. I'm gonna remove that. Okay, the first thing I would do is, as if any round product, I would cut it into a flat shape first. It is a little firm. You got to use a little bit of force. It'll snap. And then, of course, you see here the inside. I'm going to go ahead and remove all of the seeds and fiber with a spoon. And again, if you wanted to peel it, you don't have to. You can do it from the raw form. Of course, my personal preference is pre-steaming it, and it makes it much easier, less waste, and of course it is safer. As with any other potato, it can be eaten with the skin on, or it can be removed. It's your personal preference. Again, I like to leave the skin on if possible for that added nutrition and dietary fiber, but simple peeler works fine. You have to navigate your way around the odd shapes. You want to remove this dark skin to expose the purple flesh. And as with the regular potato, it will oxidize, so we want to go ahead and keep it covered or immersed in water as soon as we're done peeling it or cutting it. This one here I steamed for approximately 20 minutes. Once it's thoroughly cooked, you can go ahead and clean it. Again, I like to leave the skin on this product. If you do need to peel it, if you're going to create like a mashed potato or a puree of some sort, my preferred method is just a spoon. It kind of helps. See how easily it comes off after it is steamed. It's a little warm. You can let it cool off for a minute. If you're going to go ahead and cut this product into slices, I would recommend letting it cool for a few minutes. It does cut better when it's cold. So now that we've processed all of our Hawaii-grown staples, I'm going to go ahead and let it cool off to proper food temp, 41 degrees and below. I'm going to put it into airtight storage. What will happen is if you leave this in the refrigerator, it will develop a skin on it. So you want to keep it as airtight as possible. It will also dry out. So I'm going to go ahead and keep it in this covered banquet pan. You can also put it into a disposable plastic bag, a zipper food bag, whatever the case may be. So we want to go ahead and put it into our food bag, remove all the air as much as possible. And of course you want to label it properly. I'm going to label it here, Charo, steamed, and today's date. And I will leave my initials on it. And that's it. Here you go. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope that this video will help you to feel more comfortable with preparing some of our Hawaii staple crops. Thank you very much. Mahalo.